Hi everyone. So the following video you're about to see is a tutorial on how to create a bi-weekly visual PM for all of the new visual routes that we've created as part of the overall MC project at GAP. This isn't your typical tutorial video. What it actually was a call between myself and Joe, who's one of the supervisors over at the OHO. And we figured that it would be a pretty good tutorial video to share with everybody else as I take him through the entire process from start to finish on creating one of these bi-weekly visual inspections. So please enjoy. Any questions, please add a comment to the video below or even email me at chris_ramsdale@gap.com. Thank you. Well, this is for the purpose of the video as well. So we're recording this for everybody else. Logging into MRO. So before, Joe, when we spoke earlier today, I was telling you that you could actually do it for the assets and you can add a PM against assets. There's so many ways you can create a PM. You can clone an existing PM, you can modify an existing PM. I will show you on this video how to do it from scratch, and that's the best way of doing it, but the same principles will apply to whichever way you create your PMs eventually. I'll show you. I think a really good way of doing it is actually cloning the first PM we create. So we can create one from scratch, and then after that, I would actually be cloning that first PM you create and then just modifying it, because all the criteria, all the settings that we make on that PM will apply to every single standardized PM we make from that point. So this first one it'll be a bit more involved with creating the first one, and then I'll show you how to clone it after that. So preventative maintenance, you need to be there first. And I'm just going to go to OSC or OHO. So you've got a list of all your current active PMs. Like I say, you can modify that one of them, like a redundant one, for example, if you don't want to use it, if you want to use that, but let's do it from scratch. So I'm going to click new in the PM module and you'll get a new record. Let's create, we do have a naming convention, which is ODC, sorry, OHO, wrong repair center, bi-weekly visual, so BWV. When we get to making our internals, it could be something like semi-annual internal, so that would be SAI or quarterly QI, whatever it may be. So, but for bi-weekly visuals, it's BW-V, and then we'll just call it, I think the one we looked at earlier was receiving, wasn't it? Receiving lanes. So we'll just call it receiving. And then the name field is, you're not limited to the amount of characters you can use, or not as limited as much, so you can be a bit more detailed. Receiving conveyor. We'll just call it that for now. Excuse me. The only thing we actually need to, I'm going to delete my name from there because I'm not the supervisor. That defaults to the supervisor who the user who creates the record. We don't really use that field on any of the. I mean, if it was a PM that was a supervisor was responsible for, then by all means put that in. But typically, you don't see that field populated. The only ones that we really need to fill in is the priority. Ignore emergency, but so it should be 1, 2, or 3. 1 is usually reserved for critical path. Usually, there are some where it's kind of priority 1, but it's not quite meeting the critical path criteria. But that's usually reserved critical path. 2 is everything else, usually your typical conveyance, so like an inbound lane, that kind of thing. Then 3 is, you don't really see that used much for MHE certainly, but it does get used sometimes, or maybe like conveyor that's barely used or only used seasonally, that kind of thing. So I don't know, the receiving conveyor, I don't know which one it will fall under. Would it be 2 or 1 maybe?
I think our receiving conveyor is probably 2.
2. Okay, yeah, I'd go with that as well, to be honest. And then the only other one you need to populate is, man, I've done it again. It's because I've been working with ODC quite a lot recently. So you just add the library. I could have selected the drop down box, picks the repair center. You're basically just picking the repair center that this PM will be assigned to. And all that does is it just locks it down a little bit, provides a bit of security to it, so nobody from another repair center could go in, not easily anyway, and modify your PM that you've created. So it just gives it a library. So that's the only thing we need to do on this details page. And we don't, what we do usually do now is save it, but we don't want to actually save it until we add a procedure. Because if we do save it before we add a procedure, what MC will do is create a procedure, like a dummy procedure almost. Because every PM needs a procedure, so it creates something, it create junk, which has no tasks, no hours, nothing on there at all. So we don't want to do that, obviously. So we want to add an existing procedure. And we have already created a standardized bi-weekly visual procedure. So all you have to do really is search in the name at the top there, BWV, with the wildcard before it. And the ones you're looking for is these ones here. We'll clear these out actually, so it makes it easier. But it's these ones are the ones we're looking for. So BWV-conv. In fact, I'll put that in. I know BWV visual because I'm searching the name. Visual PM. If you was to search that, yeah, then you're only going to see the ones that are relevant to what we're doing now. So it's these ones you're looking for. So the idea is GSC, so global supply chain, bi-weekly visual conveyor, and then a numeric value after it, which is basically indicating the estimated time assigned to these procedures. So all these procedures in terms of tasks are exactly the same. There's no difference. The only thing that you're picking here is based on how big your route is and how long it'll take to visually inspect that route. So obviously we've got loads of different values from, I think 0.5 is the lowest. I think at the moment 5 hours is the max. We can create a new one if we need to. All we do is clone that if there's a value that's missing that you want. But really, these are the ones that we've got available to us at the moment. Like I say, all the tasks are the same. So what you would do is look at your route. So we've got receiving conveyors. We have a guide in place, which is 4 minutes per asset on average, 4 minutes per asset. So you just obviously count how many assets you've got on that visual route, times it by 4, and that'll give you your number of minutes, or divide that by 60, obviously, to get your number of hours. So I can't remember, what did we say it was? I think it was quite a large route, this one, wasn't it? The receiving conveyor.
It's 159 assets, but I think it averaged out to 10 hours.
Okay.
I think we decided that was entirely too long.
I would say that's too long there. So what we probably need to do is split that visual route at least in half. So we probably just have to restructure that slightly. So let's just say, for the purpose of the video, so we're not going to create a 10 hour visual. Let's just say we split it in half already, and we just changed the way that the visuals path is laid out. So it's say 5 hours. So we split it in half, 10 hours, it's going to be 5 hours. So all you do is select the 5 hours. You don't actually need to do anything here. I'm going to put in 14 days. You don't actually do that. So you can see there number of days prior to due date for notification or creation of work orders. So what we're saying there is that we want this PM or the work order to generate 14 days before it's due. And that's based on the procedure. We don't actually have to do that because we're going to, the way we automate it differently, but it's good practice to put it in just in case. I'm going to apply and close. See, we've added our 5 hour procedure because it's going to be it will be 5 hours once we adjust the route slightly. And we can actually go ahead and save that and start modifying it now, just in case, you get an internet dropout or anything, you're not going to lose all the work you've done. So far we've got our details filled in and we've got our procedure added and we've got nothing else. Now, I did mention there 14 days, and it doesn't really matter what you put in that values, because if you click on the automation tab, you'll see here that we're actually generating it, we're automating it from the PM itself and not from the procedure, because we've only got one procedure. So usually that's reserved for those where you've got loads of different intervals and you maybe want the weekly to generate 7 days in advance and the monthly to generate maybe a bit further in advance, or the annual or whatever. So we can just generate all ours, or the one procedure from here. So I'm just going to change that to 14. We'll click that there. And there you go. So that's going to generate 14 days in advance now. Or I could have just clicked that tick box and it would have gone off the value that we put in the procedure earlier. So we've got our automation in place, got our procedure in place, got our details in place. Probably should have recorded this video when I don't have a really sore throat, to be honest, Joe, but we'll carry on. I'll edit that bit out. So now we need to set our schedule. Now, because we have the way we schedule out annuals, so just sorry, our internals, we schedule them on. We have 4 weeks of the month. Every month it's a 4-week month. We have the 7th, if you remember. We generate stuff on the 7th of the month, the 14th of the month, the 21st, and the 28th. There are 4 dates every month that are on our 52-week plan. So what we could do is say, well, what we can't do is actually say every 2 weeks. That will be easy. We say we generate this every 2 weeks. We don't want to do that because that's going to offset our 52-week plan every year. It's going to actually shift our plan down the road a little bit down the line. So we can't actually just say, let's do it every 2 weeks, because our other stuff is our internals are generating based on our 48-week plan, I suppose, not 52, our 48-week plan, because we're saying 4 weeks every month. So this is where it just gets a little bit, not complicated, but a little bit involved just for the initial one. So we're actually going to generate this on fixed dates. So we select fixed, and you can see there's 24 entries, which is all we need. So bi-weekly. So we need 24 entries. So what you would do is you would choose two of those dates. So either the 7th, so this one would either generate on the 7th and the 21st of every month, or you would generate this one on the 14th and the 28th. And then what we need to do is go ahead and plug in every single one of these dates. And this is what I was getting at before, where the initial one you make, you have to do this work. Or in fact, the first 2 that you make, you have to do this, because you're going to need one for these dates, the 14th and the 28th. Let's just make it a little bit simpler. 7th and the 21st. Excuse me. You're going to need one for the 7th and the 21st. And you're also going to need a PM for the 14th and the 28th. And all you would do then is all the visual routes that you create, all the PMs you create now for the rest of the visual routes at the site, you will just clone this PM. And we'll go through that at the end anyway. So let's just plug these in. I'll probably fast forward this bit because it's just when we get to the video. Okay, go ahead and save that. So we got our dates plugged in every 2 weeks, typically. Not every 2 weeks, because obviously it depends on the length of the month, that kind of thing. But twice a month. I suppose you should be, instead of saying bi-weekly, you should be saying twice a month. That's probably a better way of putting it, actually. But so twice every month we're generating this procedure 14 days ahead of these dates.
Sorry, I can't
Okay.
do that.
So all we need to do now, the only thing we need to define now is what we're generating this against. And that's where we add our assets. It's not our asset, it's our location, because this is against the visual route. And we only need to add a single visual route. So I'm just going to select OFC. That defaults to the site that you're at. So if you're setting this up for OFC, you wouldn't have to do that step. Then we go to material handling. Inbound receiving. So there's our functional areas. Obviously, I would select the functional area, and then the next layer would be your visual routes. And obviously, we've got 2. We've got the receiving conveyance, and we've got returns. So here's our receiving conveyance, which is going to be 5 hours. You click on that. Just make sure all this is correct. It should default to the repair center. And we click apply and close. And then save. Now you can see now, next scheduled, 7th of April, this is going to start generating. If you did want to delay that slightly, so say if you've got some PMs from the old routes that are still out there and there's a bit of crossover and it's just going to overwhelm a bit of work, the things you can do here, and you can actually start it. So you can say if you wanted to, well, actually, I don't want to start this PM from generating until at least mid-April, so 15th. You can change that there. You can see that the date's changed to the next available date, which is the 21st of April. So that's it really. I mean, it's as simple as that. And all you would do now is, so if your next, when you come to generating your next visual, instead of doing all that, if I go to the schedule here, in putting all these dates, that's what takes the time really, putting those dates in, even though it took minutes, but it does add a bit of time. All I would do now, if you've got a PM again that generates on the 7th and 21st, obviously you want the way you want to set them up is maybe 50% as best as you can, 50% of them generating, or certainly 50% of your hours generating on the 7th and 21st, and the other 50% generating on the 14th and the 28th, and that way you're balancing the visual inspections across the month. That's what I would recommend you do. So you balance them out as much as possible. But then so when you come to generating or creating your next PM, it's going to generate on the 7th and 21st. All you would do is find this one. This is your template, receiving, clone it, click OK. You obviously get a new, you can see there it's actually changed. The PM ID is changed. This is actually new PM that's generated, bi-weekly visual, and this could be like whatever the route is. I'm just going to make one up. Replan. You could say replan, for example. Priority might be slightly different, so you'd have to edit that. Maybe it's a 1. I'm going to delete this, by the way. But the schedule's all in, so you don't have to change that. Your procedure you may have to change, obviously. It may not be 5 hours, so you could remove that. And then search for bi-weekly visual. Enter. And replan, say, it's only 2.5 hours, so I'd select the right time. I'm going to put 14 days in again, not that I need to, but 14 days. Automation, I don't have to do anything because it's cloned it from the original one. And then obviously the asset or the location you need to change. And you need to add replay or the location it applies to. So then you just go and add your location and click save. So you can see how once you've done one, or certainly the first two, so once you've got one for the 7th and the 14th, sorry, the 7th and the 21st, and once you've got one for the 14th and 28th, it's very easy then just to clone, change the asset, change the procedures to the correct time, change the priority if it needs to be. Done. It gets really quick. You can really knock out the bi-weekly visuals really quickly. Okay.
Well done.